Okay, everybody, residents, we're back. I see we still indeed have quorum. So I call to order the Committee of the Whole for Monday, January 13th, 2020. Adoption of the agenda. Let me look off this page. Motion put forward by Councillor Hahn that the agenda for the January 13th, 2020 regular meeting of committee be adopted. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you. And again, I must ask, after looking at the agenda, is there any councillor who has a pecuniary interest and general nature thereof to declare? Not seeing any. I'd ask the clerk to please note that. Okay, department reports. Motion put forward by Councillor Wink that committee receive report number 2020-006 regarding a development agreement for 997 Canberra Road, and that committee recommend the bylaw and development agreement be approved by council, and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the development agreement with Jonathan Sink. Any comments, questions on this report? No? Oh, Councillor Trophy.
It's not really a question, it's just a comment. I see in the section report there, B, an owner's warning clause specifying that the owner acknowledges that their property is located within a 300-meter baseline minimum distance separation requirement in the town zoning bylaw, and that they may potentially from time to time experience unpleasant odors from an existing adjacent livestock operation. I just want to make sure they're acknowledging that and everything is good, no issues later, and that's it. Just pick that up in that report.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, that it's exactly what this development agreement does, is acknowledge the proximity of the future home here in relationship to the existing livestock barn.
Oh. And before you sit down, please, so will this go right on the deed?
Mr. Mayor, this is a development agreement that's registered on title with the property. It's not part of the deed, but it's an additional document that's registered on title.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor, did you have anything else?
Well, it was basically that question there. I just want to make sure that if the home gets sold in 3, 4 years, 10 years, 15 years, that we don't get the next person coming around and saying, hey, there's a chicken farmer next door causing a bunch of odors. That's all. I just want to ensure that everybody's up front and knows about that.
And that's the purpose of the agreement.
Okay,
Thank you.
any other questions, comments? Not seeing any, I will ask for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion put forward by Councillor President. Committee received report number 2020-0008 and recommend to council that council direct staff to be
prepare the bylaws to remove the holding symbol and authorize execution of the subdivision agreement for the final approval of the Saffron Meadows Phase 2 subdivision. Any comments, questions on this? Councillor Hahn.
Through you, Mayor. So in block 37, it says environmental protection. So that is the bush that's there. I'm guessing that's remaining. That's in place. I know it's the whole bat thing, but that's the section that will remain.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, block 37 contains some species at risk, and it will be protected, and it will be transferred to the town for ownership.
And also to with regards to, and I realize there's the trail, the paved trail, which is great. Just wondering about as far as like playgrounds and future areas like that. So this, just so I understand, this section won't have, this phase won't have that, but the following phase will have an area where for kids to play, that kind of thing. That's where it's going. The first section doesn't, the second one doesn't, the third one.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, yes, Saffron Meadows Phase 3 has quite a large park, and that park constitutes the 5% land dedication for these lands as well as Phase 3, and it was the area where the secondary plan contemplated a park to be located, so it's consistent with the approved secondary plan for the area.
And so I'm going to assume that the trails, some of the paved trails will then lead to that park?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, there is certainly a pedestrian connectivity to the park, paved trails included.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. I will call it to the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion put forward by Councillor Corr that committee receive report 2020-0001 and recommend to council that council approve the bylaw attached hereto as Appendix A to enter into an encroachment agreement with the owner of 1423 Pelham Street. Any questions or comments on this? Councillor Corr.
Yes, excuse me, through you to the director. Wouldn't you ask first for permission before you put the rings in?
Mr. Mayor, through you, yes, normally you do. And the site plan approval was granted for this development and redevelopment, and it did not identify the bike rings. The owner put these bike rings in after the fact, and it was when we were noticed this afterwards, and so in order for them to remain, we do need an encroachment agreement.
Okay, through you, Mr. Mayor, to the director again. If that bike is horizontal, does that stop wheelchairs or access to any disability? Because if they park it sideways, it's in front of their building, but if they park it long ways, then it's going to impede any handicapped people.
Mr. Mayor, through you, the design of those bike rings are for that the bikes would be parked alongside, and so you attach the frame of the bike to the ring with a lock, chain and a lock. So it's unlikely that you would get people attaching the bike by the front or the back tire to the ring, because those can be easily removed. There, the walkway or the sidewalk in that area is also, I don't have it in front of me, but it is fairly wide, and so it does allow for the ability of more than two people to walk along the sidewalk there.
Any other questions? Not seeing any. I will call the vote.
Excuse me,
Oh.
I had one more.
Oh.
It said indefinitely. Could we, once we approve it, there's never a chance of us going back, or if we find it's a nuisance to the residents, we can't go back. Somewhere in the, it says somewhere, and I can't find it. It says indefinitely.
Mr. Bear, through you, yes, these encroachment agreements tend to be indefinite. If there is an issue with it, we would certainly approach the property owner and either ask that it be changed or modified or addressed that way. To have a lifespan of 5 years or 10 years to the encroachment agreement, what happens is that people just forget about it and then it dies and expires.
Okay, thank you. Not seeing any other questions. Call it to a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Holly. Motion put forward by Councillor Corr That committee received report number 2020-005 regarding site plan approval for 1010 Canberra Road, and that the committee recommends bylaw and site plan agreement be approved by council and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the site plan agreement with Slappendale Greenhouses, Inc. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Site plan. Not seeing any. I'll ask for the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Thank you, Holly. Motion put forward by Councillor Stewart. The committee received report number 2020-0004 regarding site plan approval for 1361 Maple Street, and that committee recommend the bylaw and site plan agreement for 1361 Maple Street be approved by council and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the site plan agreement with Slappendale Greenhouses, Inc. Comments, questions? Councillor Corr.
To the director, when we okay these greenhouses, could they flip over to cannabis greenhouses? Are we?
Mr. Mayor, through you, in the site plan agreement, there will be a clause in there that indicates that should the greenhouse be converted to cannabis growing or cannabis use, further approval from council is required. So we're letting the property owners know up front that if there were any future change to what is grown in the greenhouses, that it requires further council approval.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so the new bylaws that we're creating now will be in effect with this greenhouse?
Mr. Mayor, through you, the new bylaws that are being created are specific to cannabis production facilities, not necessarily greenhouses generally, because cannabis can be grown not only in a greenhouse but in other buildings as well. So those bylaws are going to address that, and then again, those bylaws, when they come forward to you, we anticipate that they will require council approval if there's any change in any greenhouse use to cannabis, that requires further council approval.
And through you, one more question. Will they be charged the development charges that we passed a couple months ago?
Mr. Mayor, cannabis greenhouses that are growing cannabis are subject to development charges. Greenhouses that are growing other plants, horticulture products, are not subject to development charges.
So I maybe didn't make myself clear, but if they flipped over to a cannabis, would we be able to go after them with development charges?
Yes, that would be the intent.
Councillor Hahn.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just looking at the map here, so what's the proximity of this location, Slappendale's, to the existing grow-up that's on Balfour? It looks like they might back onto each other. Would that be accurate?
Mr. Mayor, through you, I'm not sure if they back onto each other. I don't believe they do. I believe this property is further up on Maple Street.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to make it a little bit clearer, I know there is a little bit of separation between those two properties there that Councillor Hahn is asking. And also under staff comments, there is a provision. The proposal is not for a cannabis production facility. In the absence of a cannabis production facility policy adopted by the town council, planning staff are prepared to include a clause in the site plan agreement stipulating that should a future conversion of the be contemplated, then a site plan amendment approved by council would be required. Just so we know it's going to be, it is legit greenhouse.
Good. Any other questions on this particular site plan? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion put forward by Councillor Trophy. That committee receive report number 2020-0003 regarding site plan approval for 730 Tice Road, and that committee recommend the bylaw and site plan agreement for 730 Tice Road be approved by council, and the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the site plan agreement with 1825 11 Ontario, Inc. Any questions, comments on this site plan approval? And Councillor Trophy.
Yeah, this is similar to the last one. It's under on page 5 under staff comments. Again, they have the same provision in there as well.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Not seeing any. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Motion put forward by Councillor Trophy. That committee received report number 2020-00007 and recommend to council that council approve the signed bylaw 2020 at the next regular meeting of council scheduled for February 3rd, 2020. Any questions or comments on this bylaw? Councillor Hahn.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just so I'm clear, so the small signs that often realtors use or developments use to guide people to, you know, wherever the site is they need to guide them to, often, as it stands right now, they're almost permanent signs. They're out on the sidewalk, they're on the corners for months and months on end. Will that change for those particular types of signs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that particular section we rewrote for wayfinding, so realtors are allowed to put them out the day of for their open houses, and then they're gone. So they're not allowed to leave them out more than the period of time that they have the open house. Before, we didn't address that. There was no way. We didn't allow them, period, so we would go and collect them. Mm-hmm. So now the realty people were complaining to us, so that's why we wrote that section. If a developer is developing a subdivision and he has a sign, permanence, or not permanent, a sign into the ground that promotes that subdivision, he's allowed that, but that's a different sign altogether.
So in the case of a developer having the sandwich board style sign, like there's one at the corner of 20 and Pelham, it's been there for months and months and months. How's that? It's not in the ground, it's still sandwich board, but it's a developer.
Then he's not allowed that. Under the rules, not allowed that. You're only allowed that at the time of your open houses or there's staff there when you're open. If we don't receive a complaint, we don't know what's there, I'm sorry, we can't. We don't go searching for
Well, you can
things.
note that one then. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, it's been there for eons. Thanks. Oh, actually, one more thing. With regards to the signs then that are advertising a special or discount or something for a building that has multiple tenants, so whether it's a, I don't know, a coffee or a nail salon or what have you, how is this new policy, will it affect them? Because right now you've got a sign out there for coffee for a month or two, and then the sign, the portable type sign changes to now get your nails done, and then it changes to now, I don't know, have more coffee again. Whatever it is, it's really almost a permanent portable sign. So what's the effect on here?
Change word that they tow out there and put down.
Yes,
On
they can change the letters.
So that's the one we had rewritten the timing of it. They're allowed a month on, month off, and then they could change it from 10. We weren't allowed 2. We only So Sobeys would be 1 month, and then the liquor LCBO would be another month, and then whoever was in that shopping plaza type thing. So we changed that, you're allowed 2 months, consecutive months, and you're allowed twice a year. And you're only allowed to do 1 at a time, like 1 tenant. So, and then once you do that cycle, then it's there to promote new businesses. So there's a few around that use them annually. They put them out. Shoppers puts their flu shot. They get every year. They put a sign out to promote their flu shots. That will be only 2 months in the fall, and then that'll be into that. So we're trying to eliminate the look of Lundy's Lane.
Mm-hmm.
We really are working towards that. So, and there's only really one business in Pelham that does those types of signs, and you probably know him. So we work quite closely with him, and he's pretty. He does understand where we're coming from, so he does work with us. But I understand where you're coming from. That we did have a period there where we're just sign after sign after sign.
Right, because a business is only new for so long. You can only play the new card for so long, and then you're not new anymore.
That's right.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a question, Chief, on the sign. What was it, a couple of months ago, we had the people put the signs up on the lawn protesting the cannabis. How does this does this bylaw not infringe, but does it address that problem?
Yes, it does. You're allowed to, depends if it's election time or not. So
Okay.
you're allowed to put signs up during an election period. It's under the election sign
Yes.
bylaw.
Yep.
You can put a sign up on your front lawn. It's on your own private property. As long as it's under a certain size, it can't be over, I can't remember the size,
Yeah.
square footage
Yes.
of it, and you can put it up for a period of time, so.
Okay. When you do you remember the period of time? And that's how.
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, so they are allowed to put a sign, certain dimensions, yes, on the property for a designated amount of time.
And you're not allowed to have it in any town or
No.
easements or anything. It has to be on.
Yes. Okay. Yep. Thank you for that. Thank you. Any other questions, Mike? Council Trophy.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm glad you brought that one up because I was thinking about that one too. And that was a couple months back, and I don't think that was a problem. We addressed it as a problem. That was just a bunch of concerned residents that wanted to make their voice heard. That's all they were. Just tell your council this, and that happens in a lot of municipalities. There's a bunch of them up right now in Port Colborne going on there, and I don't see that being a problem. I think that's how this all came up. In the background says the current town of Pelham sign bylaw 3310-2012 has been in effect for the past 7 years. New development within the town and changing technology has made the current bylaw obsolete, creating difficulties relating to consistency with permission and enforcement requirements. Can you elaborate on that and how we, like, I know we passed that, it came up about those signs that we've seen on the private residence yards, and then all of a sudden we're getting into a sign bylaw and hurry up and get it done. So I want to.
So, yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, yeah, we're starting to see much larger buildings in Pelham. The requirements for, so in the old bylaw, it would say you are allowed 107 square foot sign. So if you had a store, and I'll pick on our
Food basics?
Food Basics, it's a very large store. And if you were to take that store and put a 107 square foot sign on it, wouldn't look quite right. So through the planning department and site plan agreements and stuff like that, we work together on this, is that the sign has to fit the building. So if you look at Food Basic sign or Sobe sign, one letter is more than 107 square feet. So now we work in percentages. So you can't exceed 25% of the height, you can't exceed 80% of the length, and it's to deal with the types of buildings we have today. So that's our main, and the real estate was an issue that came up because it was never in there. So there is the main changes in this, is a lot of it is in the definition. We went from 2 pages of definitions to, I think we have 8 pages of definition because we ran into problems with there. People come in for an application and there was no language to deal with it. So we had a lot of issues.
My last part on that, then, I guess you sent out the changes, because it's 32 pages to go through, and you have 9 changes. It also says the new sign bylaw was developed mainly using a new bylaw from another municipality. This bylaw was challenged in court and was upheld. Are we sure that this bylaw suits Pelham?
Through Mr. Mayor, well, one of the reasons why we went the route of, rather than taking our existing bylaw, which is very outdated, and revising it, we went around and we researched other municipalities, and this one particular municipality had just rewrote theirs, and it was challenged in court, and it was upheld. I think maybe the CEO could expand a little bit more on that, because he's kind of led me down that path of how to do, what route we are going to go to redo this, and if you'd like to make a comment about it.
I would submit to council that the proof of the pudding's in the eating. And so using a bylaw that's already been through the battles, and the reason why there's so much case law on this is that signs vary enormously and actually have a significant influence on the quality of life for residents. This sign bylaw is designed to, it does not impede on legitimate political protest. It allows people to express themselves. It has exceptions in there for, happy birthday celebrations and, oh lordy, look who's 40 and all the rest of it. Or commentary on cannabis. These things aren't prohibited in here. This bylaw does quite an elegant job of weighing the legitimate needs for you not to be living beside a neon sign flashing through your bedroom window with the capacity to freely express yourself, with the need for businesses to advertise, with the desire for people not to have sign pollution. So there are a lot of definitions in there, that is true. But those definitions exist because of challenges and problems other communities have experienced with people cleverly trying to find workarounds. And that's why a well-drafted sign bylaw is actually quite a very lengthy document. It's shorter than War and Peace, but not a lot shorter than War and Peace. However, this really does a nice job of protecting free speech, allowing some amount of freedom and expression, but also trying to curb the worst excesses that other communities in Ontario have seen. And as Pelham continues to grow, we're 1,000 people shy of where some of our neighbors were when they declared themselves cities. That's where we're at right now. And we experienced 3.35% growth last year, and our planning department continues to be busy at processing permits. So these challenges are going to, if they aren't with us already, although I think they are coming. And I think the sign bylaw gives council, I'd like to suggest you have some feeling of assurance that you're not clamping down on legitimate protest and legitimate expression, but you're also protecting quality of life. And I know it took a lot of words to do it, and that it just took me a lot of words to explain it. And I know it's a long document, but it is a thorough one, and it is defensible.
My last one, can you just help me find that one for lawn signs? I can't see it here anywhere. I just want to be sure before we pass something that we give the residents every opportunity to express their concern. The size of it and the duration. I looked under pole signs, ground signs, roof signs. Sorry about that. I just want to make sure.
Section number 11.
I don't-
Probably temporary special events, maybe? Sorry, it's been a while since I've read this. This is the question you tell us ahead of time. So we
Would you like a physical copy, Mr. CAO?
can... Sure, thank you.
page 4, information signs. Provides information concerning public order, public safety, or provides public education or enlightenment concerning an activity or nature of the ground.
Well, you know who's 40. I thought it was a different one, but
Under definitions, sorry.
That's definition.
I'll give you you read them all, I can. 3.5.
Yeah, on page 4, it's 3 up from the bottom. But it doesn't say the sign, or it doesn't say the size of the sign, Chief.
Doesn't, safety, doesn't see 0.35 square meters.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can we defer this until the next meeting so we can get some clarification? I just want to ensure, if we can't find it, I don't want to hold up the meeting.
Yes.
I second that.
Yep. Yeah, Chief, you can possibly, yeah, we will defer tonight then, sure. Everybody,
Vote on that?
I'm sorry, yeah, so obviously we need a vote on that. All those in favor of deferring, okay, and not deferring, so yes, okay, so we will defer the bylaw tonight then, okay. So, what do we do with this resolution then? Obviously, not carried.
Referred.
Oh, referred, oh, yeah, okay, there it is, yes,
Referred there.
okay.
well, that's information.
So is it referred or deferred, or
It's
it's
a
the same
different.
thing?
I'll-
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, motion put forward by Councillor Hildebrand. Oh, this is the one we wanted. That this regular meeting of committee be adjourned until the next regular meeting scheduled for February 3rd, 2020, following council. All those in favor? All those opposed? This meeting is adjourned. And now we will be going in camera, and that means that the residents will not be privy to this following meeting, to the next part of the meeting.
Okay. I'm just going to turn off all the
Yes.